Hello and welcome to today's webinar on making the most of technology in English. My name is Wendy Piccinini and I am the CAS Community Outreach Manager for communities across London and the East of England, and I am your host for this session. This webinar is part of the CAS Inspire series. CAS Inspire is a series of resources consisting of live webinars with expert panelists discussing topical computing education matters in which the audience can get involved. Also featured are videos teaching computing concepts, podcasts and careers inspiration webinars. During the session, please use the question window, which is on the right-hand side of your screen to ask questions. All attendees are in listen-only mode. The top of the window has an orange rectangle which can be expanded or collapsed. If you would like to download a copy of this afternoon's presentation and a list of the apps that have been referred to, these are available under the handout section. If using social media, the hashtag for the event is hashtag CASInspire20. During the webinar, please type any questions into the question window, and there will be breaks when questions will be read out to our presenter. Without further ado, let me introduce you to Rachel Vidler, who is our presenter this afternoon. Rachel is a qualified teacher with a wealth of experience in computing and using technology in the classroom. Her experience in schools led her to work as a subject matter expert for STEM learning and the National Centre for Computing, offering guidance and training for primary schools nationally, alongside facilitating CPD courses for the NCCE. Supporting computing at school as a community leader, Rachel aims to keep on top of the ever-changing aspects of technology and computing. She's also a Raspberry Pi certified teacher, Apple teacher, and Seesaw ambassador. I'm now going to hand over to Rachel.
Right, thank you, Wendy. So hopefully you guys will be able to see my slides that I'm going to share with you. And like Wendy said, if you haven't joined on this platform before, on the right hand side you will have somewhere where it says handouts. So I know people always ask it. What you're basically going to have is a copy of all of these slides, and then I've just added a second one which is a copy of the apps. So what I'm going to talk through today is basically how you can kind of integrate technology into English lessons, and we're kind of focusing on some reading and SPAG. Now, it's a combination of websites and applications. I know all schools aren't fortunate enough to have iPads and tablets and the like, so I've tried to kind of use a mixture of both, but obviously there is going to be more apps maybe than websites, but there is a kind of mixture. There is a question thing on the right hand side, so please do pop that in there, and Wendy, like she said, will kind of stop me if there's any questions as I'm going along. So I am going to start. Now what I will say, and I kind of always say this when I do presentations, and I do apologise a little bit, is I try to kind of get through as much as I can in a session. So like Wendy said, you can kind of access this session afterwards, and if you want that you can contact us and ask how, but I will give you a couple. You have got a copy of the slides to download, so please do take that up. So what we're going to look at today is three kind of things. So we're going to look at basically how you can incorporate technology into English, and because English is so broad, and I know this myself as a teacher, I've tried to just narrow down onto a tiny little area. So we're going to look at reading, so kind of a comprehension based activity, and in that tie in some of the SPAG foci and a little bit like word families and word classes and stuff like that. So that's what we're going to talk about, almost like a little process of start to finish of how you could do that. Then what I also thought I'd do in the second part of this session is kind of look at quick wins. So basically applications that you can take back into the classroom straight away and use them in other areas. So some of them will be reading, but I'll kind of say how you could incorporate them into other stuff as well. And then lastly, right at the end, I'm going to have a little brief chat about remote learning and a bit of like a blended learning approach, because obviously, you know, hats off to all you guys at the moment. I am a teacher and luckily I'm not in schools at the moment. What you are dealing with is crazy. You know, the expectations from Ofsted of having to provide a remote learning platform for pupils when they're off. I can imagine you are all very, very busy. So I'm just going to highlight off maybe like the 3 best platforms that I would suggest, and how some of the links you can use those in your English lessons and kind of tie it in. Because again, having a remote learning platform is all great, but you kind of got to bring it back into your classroom with that blended learning approach. So if you we do go into a lockdown or have classes off, at least the pupils hopefully know how to use those platforms. But like I said, if there's any questions as we're going, then please do put them in the chat and shout. So basically, just as a start, I'm kind of looking at the national curriculum, and CAS and computing at schools is a focus on computing, and this session's a bit of a strange one because it's almost that we are looking at computing, but we're mainly going to look at the English curriculum. I'm not going to get into too much depth about the English curriculum because that's going to be relative to your key stage. Take away from today whatever is relevant for your age range that you teach at, because basically a lot of the stuff can be scaffolded to work from year 6 to key stage 1. But just with regards to computing curriculum, just as a bit of an overview, and this is quite a nice thing to look at anyway, the way that the computing curriculum can be classified is into like 3 key strands, which I do when I do a lot of work with schools, is just talk about this, and the NCC kind of classify it in a similar way of computer science, information technology and online safety. And in a nutshell, if you look at the national curriculum, the objectives that they give you, there's not a lot. So kind of breaking it down into these 3 strands makes it a little bit simpler for teachers. Computer science, obviously we're not going to focus in this webinar, but there are ones in the future about concepts before coding and progression, Scratch and things like that. It's not going to be the focus of today. Online safety, obviously not going to be so relevant, but we still need to teach them the skills of how to use stuff. But today's objective is that information technology. And just as a look here at the national curriculum, these are the statements from Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2. So basically, in both key stages, you have a statement all about using technology to create, organise, store, manipulate and retrieve digital content. And in my opinion, this was the one statement that transferred really nicely over from the old curriculum of ICT in that 2014 change. And a lot of schools, when they go, oh, we struggle with computing, it's kind of this statement that you're probably already doing without knowing. So it is stuff like Publisher and Word and Microsoft and things like that. But again, a lot of the apps that I'm going to talk about today kind of tick this statement because they're going to be looking at using applications and using programs, yes, in our English work, but the children are still going to be creating things or storing things or analysing and collecting data. A lot of that will tie over. So it's just worth pointing out and worth knowing that actually, yeah, we're focusing on English, but you can tie it back into your computing curriculum and kind of achieve that one objective if you want to tie it in. So if we have got computing leads, it's about thinking creatively about how you actually organise your curriculum, that a lot of things we're going to talk about today will hit that. So imagining that we're just kind of taking a guided reading activity, for argument's sake, I've just kind of focused on a comprehension task. So I've just taken a Key Stage 2 extract, which is just going to be the basis, just to kind of show you as an example. If we've got Key Stage 1 teachers in, it doesn't mean that you can't replicate all of this with a different text, okay? It's just an example, and I myself am more Key Stage 2 when I was teaching, so this is why I've kind of done this. So what I'm going to do is just take you on a really short process of how you could use different bits of technology. So for argument's sake, we've got this text as our starting point, which is the Explorer. Now, one way in which you can use technology really easily is to kind of have your pre-teach. It's about checking misconceptions and checking understanding before you even dig into a text. So the first one of application that I'm going to talk about, which you may have heard of or you may not have, is an application called Mentimeter. Okay, now this is a free application, and it's kind of an application for making presentations, and it's one that I came across more recently when we were working remotely. So when I was working with teachers and when I was working with pupils in this remote kind of climate that we're in, it was actually how can I gather the ideas of children in a really simple way. So I'm going to show you something, and then I'm going to actually ask you if we can, depending on what devices you're on, to dig in and let's have a look and see if we can do this together. But just to kind of show you, what Mentimeter is it's free to sign up. You have to sign up for an account. And the only limitation on it that I've kind of found is when you're doing presentations, you can only have 2 slides, but you can have as many presentations as you want. So as a teacher, I haven't found that it's held me back. And I'm going to show you what it looks like in a second. So what you'll see on your screen now is just an extract that I've cut from it. And this is basically a question that I could ask as part of my pre-task. So if I was looking at the book, The Explorer, I might just ask a really simple question right at the beginning, going, what genre do you think the book is going to be about? Okay. You can make this on this slide, so you can put in you'll see on the right hand side here, you can put in your question and you can put in your 2 options for your answer. And then what this does is it creates an interactive response. So if I can ask you, if you have a tablet or an iPad or you're on a laptop right now and you open a browser, because I want to kind of try and see if this will work with us, because we've got a lot of people on, so let's see if we can gather some responses. What you would then ask the pupils to do, which is what I'm going to ask you guys to do, is if you type in menti.com, so if you just open a browser now, if you can do this, it'd be amazing, and we'll see. And then I'll share my screen with you. If you open menti.com and then you put in that code that is at the top there. So when you go to menti.com, it'll ask you to put in a code. And I just want you to have a go if you can, just to see how simple it is for pupils to do this in the same respect. So you put in that 511277, and it should take you to this question, which then you should be able to answer. So I'm just going to give you a minute or so to try and do that. I'm going to leave my screen on before I show you then what you get as a response as a teacher, just to copy that code. So I'm going to ask you really quickly, if you go to menti.com and then put in that code that you can see on the top, you should be able to see that. Oh, I've seen someone's put code can be found. Let me just share my screen for a second. Let me just launch it. If I press present right now. Oh, no, you can't. This is my mistake. If you look at the book, sorry, I don't know why that's done that. Great thing with technology and computing. If you look on the board now, there's a new, on the board, that's a teacher thing. If you look on your screens now, there's a new code, so 3725638. If you pop that in, if you've got the website up, and see if you get this question. So there you go, I can see someone's responded already. So what you'll see now, this should be going live, so brilliant, 4 people have kind of responded, 5. So it's a really nice, just quick overview where you can gather responses really quickly from pupils. So like you see here, doesn't take a lot to log on. You have to get the code right, unfortunately, but it doesn't take much to log on, and then you get this nice instant reaction that you can leave on the board and you can ask children there. So obviously this is one of the most simple questions of what genre do you think the book is about. And then what I can do right now, because I'm sharing my teacher screen, I can see how many responses I've got on the bottom right hand side, so I can see if everyone's responded. And one thing I do like about this, which you may have a different opinion from a teaching perspective, but I like that it's anonymous. Okay, so again, it's like any bit of technology, you need to train your children on what you expect and them for not to be silly. But one thing I would then do is, if I take you to the next slide, I can ask another question. And this I think is really important. So we haven't got the extract on here. You can type any question you want. But my second question is a word-based cloud. It gathers vocab. So I've just put, are there any words or phrases that you are unsure of? And in your box now, if you want to put in any responses, you can. And you'll see them kind of populate on my screen. So I think I left it as 3. Obviously, we can't see the text. I haven't got the text on the screen. That'd be amazing if I could. You can put in any words. I normally do this with how are you feeling in lockdown, and wine used to come up quite a lot. The idea of this is that it is a word cloud, so you can see it's populating there. The more the word is mentioned, the bigger it gets. Okay, so this is just, again, a really nice way, and what the children love is it's just that instant response. So I leave it on the board, there's your question, off you go. You can do this on laptops, you can do it on tablets, it's just a website, so all they need to do is have a Safari, okay, any kind of device like that. And what you can do after that is then save this kind of document or screenshot it, and you can have it in the book. But what I think is really important for reading comprehension is, almost when I used to teach, it is that pre-read. It is allowing the children to be exposed to that text, but vocabulary is a massive thing. You know, if you look at the changes to the SPAG, what happened with the SPAG tests and just the expectations at Key Stage 2, language is massive, language acquisition and children understanding it. And this is a really nice app that is absolutely free, which allows children to kind of anonymously tell you what language they don't get, okay, or what they're struggling with, because then we can kind of look into it. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen. You can kind of see how that is. Again, a lot of the things I'm saying today, don't just think they have to be reading. So what I do here is gathering vocab is really nice. So start of English lessons, if I've got a picture prompt, so like a story setting on the board, I normally do a word cloud. People used to do stuff like this for beginning of term, like just class rules and stuff. So you can do that. So there is loads that you can kind of do with these different things. So let me put my presentation back on for a sec. Again, if it's on the right side. And then let me show you. So basically with Mentimeter, if you want to have a look and you want to sign up to it, which should be coming up now, I can't see my screen, you've got these different questions. So when you do sign on, you can make, these are the different options. You've got multiple choice, word cloud, you've got open-ended questions, scales, ranking, Q&A. Okay, so don't just think it has to be on anything. It can be science-based, English-based, anything, but I quite like it as a tool. And like I say, it is just a website, so you can use it on laptops. Or iPads. Yeah, we've got a question, I'm presuming.
We have, yes. This question is from Nicola, and she asks, is there any benefit to using the app on an iPad over using the website?
Not massively. If you've got iPads and they're managed so you can push apps out straight away, when you go onto the app, it will just ask you for the code. So it basically just stops the children having to go to Safari and type it in. So obviously with Key Stage 2, it's not going to be too hard to type in menti.com, but if you've got Key Stage 1, it's a lot nicer for them to look for the picture app, click on the app, and it takes them straight there. So it's only that it's a little bit of a shortcut. That's the main thing.
I can see the benefits with younger children. Having taught Key Stage 1 a lot. So yeah, thank you for that. That's really helpful. Thank you.
Cool. So yeah, so that's just the first one that maybe I'd use as a pre-read, and like I say, you can kind of have those inference questions. You really can ask just about anything on it, but it's about checking the misconceptions before you start a text. So it's just a nice one that I use. Again, sign up for free. The only limitation is you can ask 2 questions, but you can make as many presentations as you want. So you can kind of do that. So then after a pre-read, what I would probably start to look at, or another tip if you kind of want to use it, is the ability for the children to unpick and analyse a text. Okay. Now what I'm going to show you here is an app called Seesaw. And you may have heard of this in the remote learning climate, okay, blended learning opportunity. I'm going to talk about it more at the end. But what Seesaw is it's a free app in which the children sign up, and it's basically like an extension of their books. So it creates a learning platform that they can kind of access at home and in the class, on iPads and on laptops, okay? And what I used to do, which was really effective, was as part of fluency, I'd ask them to kind of unpick a text before we started. So what you can see on the screen here is just an example where you could have a screenshot of the text, you can upload it as a PDF. I'll show you how to do it in a second because I think a lot of people think it's really hard and it isn't. You can put a text on, or they can type a text, and then it's a really nice interactive tool that allows them to unpick stuff. So what you'll see here down the bottom is you've got different colours and stuff, so you can highlight different areas. And then what they've done here is then just added a text box and explained why they've highlighted that part of the text. So again, part of a pre-read or part before you start your guided reading, or if you've got children reading chapters at different levels, you can say take a screenshot of a page and tell me what you know. Okay, you can have a certain foci for different groups to work on, but it's just a nice interactive way of them actually analysing and drawing on the text. Saves you photocopying loads of things and putting it in books. What more so that I think is really important, certainly again lower down for children with SEN needs, is the fact that you can have a microphone. So what you'll see on the right hand side here is the option to record. This is so valuable. Used it so much even in the Year 5 classes, just allowing children to articulate their answers and articulate why. Yes, Wendy, I'm guessing. Got a question?
Yes, sorry. This is just a comment really from Zoe, and she's just referring back to what you were just talking about with Menti, and I just think it's really good to share with everyone who's listening. She said pre-reading by looking at book cover illustrations and predicting the narrative might work really well on Menti. Yeah. That's really good point. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's the option on some of them as well that you can upload photos, so you could do that. And then you could tie the same as of here. If you've got a photo, you know, with Seesaw, it's really easy to take a photo on the iPads or laptops of a book, because you see you've got your camera option here as well. And then you could get them to justify their reasons. So if they do think it's fictional, they think it's non-fictional, they've got a certain genre, whether it's action, you know, what inference, what are they taking from the front cover, but then they can kind of explain why. So yeah, good option there. What I'm going to try and do really quickly is I'm just going to try and close my PowerPoint. I'm going to take you to Seesaw just to kind of show you what it looks like really briefly. So what you'll see here, hopefully this will load, is if my internet's going to load, just what it looks like. So you can upload an extract really simply and quite easily. And what the children kind of then do, let's delete that and show you. So the children have the option to upload on a screen that you'll see here, and so do teachers, so you can do the same thing. And all I would do, again, if I've got the book in front of me, I'd take a photo, but as I haven't, I'm just going to upload the extract really quickly just to show you. So this is my extract from the book. What it does, which is really nice, it kind of then just puts it as a picture, so I can zoom in, make it bigger or smaller if it didn't quite fit. But what I've then got down here are all my options. Okay, so I've got the option to, oh, that's really bad. If I put it on the highlighter, I've got the option to highlight. Okay, I've got the option to record here, so on a laptop I can still record verbally. I've got the option to add text boxes and explain and move these around. Okay, so I know a lot of schools, I set up quite a lot of schools in lockdown with this platform, because what Seesaw is then is it's a learning journal, so you get all the work that's been set, and you get all the work in pupils folders like here. And I'm not going to talk about it too much now, but it is a good opportunity for blended learning. But something like that, where you have the opportunity for children to kind of draw on their work and explain, and certainly verbally, you know, for those children who really struggle with written prompts, just being able to verbally record stuff down with a microphone makes a complete difference to their learning environment. So just a few examples. Again, this is the kind of thing you can look at. So just a picture where they've drawn on, they've made some comments about what they thought those parts of the text were looking at. Again, why is this an important piece of the text? So they're highlighting a paragraph and kind of explaining their justification. Or this one was more about the show not tell of kind of character emotions. You know, they think that the character's relieved, but why? So yes, you can use it as a pre-reading task of language acquisition and vocabulary, but you can use it with just about anything, so inference or things like that. And having this as a tool is so much nicer than, you know, children don't feel the fear that they're going to make a mistake. It's like when you give a child a whiteboard, you know, their inhibitions go for some reason in the classroom. The same thing as using something like this from Seesaw, because they can rub it out, they can change it, they can do that. And more than anything, it's that kind of thing that you're never going to get that opinion or those misconceptions or understanding of each child, because you're never going to get round as a teacher to every child and ask them. Seesaw, you set them a 5-minute task, you've then got 30 entries on your journal that you can look at later. For me, it really opened up who was making mistakes and why. Another thing that I just thought of off the top of my head that we used to do, which is quite nice, fluency. As a teacher, I used to hate that I never had time to listen to each child read. You know, I would love to, but I couldn't hear them every day, all day. So again, what I used to ask the children to do is when they thought they were reading fluently to move up a book on their stages, I used to say, right, take a photo of your book and read it to me. And then you could play it back later on and you can hear the misconceptions. And I also used to do it at different points. So if they thought they were ready, I'd say record it today, and then I want to hear you record it next week, and the children can see if they've made improvements or what they're stuttering on or what words they're struggling. So again, just the verbal recording part on Seesaw is amazing. Another app that I just want to show you really quickly is, so Seesaw is a platform that is free. You can buy into the paid version, which has a lot of benefits, but I'm not here to try and make people spend money. So another alternative is an app called Skitch. It basically does the exact same thing. So it's a free app. It allows you to take a photo of something, and then it allows you to put on pointers and captions, text boxes, and highlights. So everything that you've done on Seesaw, you can do on Skitch, apart from the microphone. So then again, using it in English, stuff like this, a diary entry, you can ask them to annotate, and this is just a child's example, highlighting in different colours, kind of pulling into what it is. So again, that pre-read and interpreting the text before we're actually going to go and dig into it in our lessons, you can do it on this app. So I don't want to kind of say you've got to go and buy into Seesaw, because if you have something different like Google Classroom, you might not want to. But Skitch is just another free tool, which is really easy. Children take a picture, annotate on top, and there you go, you've collected your data. You know, save that as a photo, print it and put it in books if you want, store it on a remote learning platform, which a lot of schools will have now, to save you all the printing. And there you go, you've got your kind of day one understanding of what they get from the text. So then, kind of moving on to the next stage, potentially in a mini sequence of SPAG that I've kind of got, we then might want to choose to look at vocabulary. So if we've done our Mentimeter kind of thing and we've understood then what language they didn't get, we can kind of start to look into what language do we need to work on, what do we know, what don't we know. And this is an app that I just came across not that long ago that I thought I would mention. It is a paid app. Okay, it costs $2.99, so it's not necessarily one that you're going to want to push out, in my opinion, to all the pupil iPads, but it's one where I know a lot of schools have a device for a teacher, or even a phone. You could tether a phone to your board and do it through that. What this is called it's called Word Map Thesaurus. And it's brilliant even for learners with SEN needs, in my opinion, because it's like a thesaurus, but as you can see on the right hand side, you type in your words that you're going to look for, and it classifies all other words that have that, so all other synonyms, and then it will colour code them with regards to word classes and stuff like that. So, and this actually moves. If you zoom in and stuff, it moves and it's all interactive. So again, I used to use it with learners with SEND needs, because rather than asking them to get a thesaurus and search the book, search the words, you know, if they're not capable of doing that and they haven't got the skills, in my opinion, it's pointless asking them to. This is a nice interactive app where they can look at it that way. Yeah, you've got a question?
Yeah, it's just a practical question, really. It's about Skitch, which you may or may not know the answer to. The person's asking whether it's compatible with the latest version of iOS. They stopped using it in their school because it stopped working. I don't know if you have any advice about that.
I don't know, but irregardless, if you have purchased it on a previous, it shouldn't stop working, and all I can do is say that I'll look into it. I don't know the full answer, but what happens is even if your iPad or it depends how you're pushing apps and deploying apps, you should still be able to purchase the last version and push that out. So it might be worth talking to your support team to see if they can, because that's news to me if it doesn't work. I mean, I've installed it the other day and it worked on my iPad, but I must admit my iPad isn't on the latest update. So I don't know off the top of my head. I would like to think you could still use the previous version, but I don't want to say it definitely works, because I don't know completely. So yeah, try it or ask your support team if they can kind of have a look at it and push it out. If not, I'm sure the web developers will, unless it's a null and void app, normally they will try and update the apps to meet the iOS. But I know there was a few apps with the latest update that struggled. So yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We'll see. So then after kind of looking at that, app, if you want to, as a thesaurus, what you can then do, and I'm sure lots of you have heard of this app, you can kind of then throw it back to pupils to create their own. So Popplet is a brilliant app that you can use in just about anything. I use it in topic all the time. But looking at English, if I wanted to have then a SPAG lesson where I wanted them to create their own, so again, I probably wouldn't purchase the $2.99 app for everyone. I'd show them on the board of what they can do. I would then ask the children to take some vocab either from the text, or it could tie into anything. It could be topic-based vocab, and I would get them to use this app to then create their own mind map. So what you can see here is we've just taken a word like lead, and we've used dictionaries. We've worked out what this is with regards to word class. I'm going to show you something later which really helps with word class. So we've got it as a verb and we've got it as a noun. Then coming off of there, stemming, we've got the definition. So we're asking them to write a definition, and then coming off the definition, we've got synonyms. Okay, and then what you'll see different is we've got suffixes, we've got prefixes. With Popplet, you can add images, so they can search images from the internet and add them in. It's just a nice way to visually show that. And again, this is this language acquisition that if they've flagged up some words from Mentimeter that they struggle with, getting them to dig deeper into that vocabulary and apply it. You know, you could have a second thing off here asking them to use it in a sentence. There's no limit to what you can do with this app. It's just a nice visual way to look at it and see it. Okay, so as a SPAG focus, I then might have like a starter activity saying that I want them to create something similar, and this is what I want it to look like. The app here that I put is Popplet Lite. Popplet Lite is free. Okay, you can do one Popplet at a time, so then you can just screenshot it, save the photo, and then wipe it and do another one. You can pay for Popplet, which I think your community can have more, but in all my years teaching, I never have. So that's just another little activity that you could do. Right. The other thing I wanted to point out here, again, only because I work with a lot of schools and they have asked me this, is if you want an alternative to Popplet, because lots of schools have heard Popplet is quite nice at Key Stage 1, but just go back here, you literally double tap and it makes a box. You double tap again and you just join them with the lines. It is really simple to do. I've done it in Key Stage 1 with just gathering vocab. So we put a picture in the middle of our character, and then they just double tap and they put adjectives all around it. Okay, you can then have color coded, so you can have adjectives in blue, adverbs in red. Okay, so you can color code. If you want something for progression, we've worked with some schools where they go, actually they started using it in year 2, what am I going to do in year 6? This is one that I just put on the app list that I just recommend having a look at. It's called Simple Mind Plus. It's free and it's exactly the same stuff, but you can dig in a little bit deeper, so you get more like word map stuff like this. Okay, so it's really good for just plotting ideas. Again, could be that we're going to look at SPAG as a focus, but it could just be that we're going to look at have branches off for our characters, our setting, and we're just going to use it as a gathering vocab kind of session. So I'm not going to dig into what it is. It's exactly the same as Popplet. It's just nice if you're using Popplet from year 1 that you've kind of got a progression when you get up to Key Stage 2. So that's another app. So then say that we've kind of done that, we've looked at our text, we've done a little bit of a pre-read, we've kind of established some comprehension questions in the pre-read, we've looked at vocab and what they've got wrong, then made like a mini SPAG activity to kind of look at digging deeper into the language, looking at synonyms, looking at definitions, looking at word classes. I want to show you like a really nice tool, and this is probably my favourite one that I found recently for actually word classes and word families. A bit like Seesaw, where some schools might be using Seesaw as a blended learning opportunity. This is another one if you're using Microsoft. So I'm sure you'll be fed up with me saying this, but schools have obviously got to provide something. Schools have normally either gone Seesaw or Class Dojo, Microsoft Teams or Google Classroom. Okay, those are the 3 routes that schools have gone down. Doesn't mean that you have to use one religiously, but what you can do through Microsoft is there is an option called OneNote. And I must admit, I've used this a handful of times in schools for some of the English foci that I'm going to show you. I haven't used it a lot, but it does have good potential to what you can do. Okay, and basically what OneNote is it's a cloud-based workbook for documents. So it works on the internet again. So yes, it is an app. You can download an app on iPads or tablets, but you can just go to Google and you can put in OneNote. It is basically storing notes online. So imagine your notes on a Safari or your notes on a phone. You've kind of now got that on Microsoft with their version. You do have to have an account, so the children log in, but Office is free. Office 365 is free, an education license for all schools. You'll find that children will have this anyway if they're logging into devices, laptops online. It's the same login to kind of access this. Okay, and again, ask your technical support team because it's really easy to kind of be set up. So what OneNote does is it's just basically a way to store information. So you can use it like a Word document. You can use it as a way to kind of make notes or anything like that. In itself, nothing fancy. But one thing it has this amazing add-on which would be brilliant for SPAG, okay, SPAG and SEND learners, I guess. So when you've made a note, so I'm just going to show you here quickly, you go into your accounts, this will be the child's account here, You've got quick notes, and you can make different folders for different things. And then under here, I've just got some notes. So I made an untitled page. And on here, I just called it the Explorer, and I started to write the text. Okay, I'm going to show you a shortcut in a minute to copy the text. So you're not asking all the children to write it. That's another thing. But I've just started to write the text. Now, if you go at the top, again, you've got a copy of these slides, so you can kind of explore it. But once you've got your notes, if you go to the view option here at the top, there's a tool called Immersive Reader. And this is probably the most powerful thing I've seen from Microsoft in a long time. And I really like it, which is why I wanted to point it out in this. It's basically great for SPAG activities because it allows you to kind of dig deeper into it. So originally, it's kind of for people who need support with reading, I guess. So you could say for your SEN children, but actually in a classroom, I'd use it all the time. So when you turn on that Immersive Reader, you get a page that looks like this. And you have this tool here, which allows you to dig into certain things. It's like their add-ons, and it's really good. Down at the bottom, it has a speech tool. So if you've got children with SEN or children who really struggle with reading, put it on OneNote, and then they can have it read to them. You know, brilliant, and it highlights as it goes along, so it'll read the tool to them. But on this Immersive Reader thing here, you get this box come up. And this, I think, is really valuable for a primary school teacher. It basically has the different word classes here, and you can choose to turn these on or off. Okay, so what I've done here, which you'll see, is I just turned on nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. And then if I then hide this menu, this is my screen that I get, and it's highlighted off all of those word classes for pupils to see. So when it comes to unpicking text, you know, if you're thinking your SPAG sentences where you are asking them to identify the verb or asking them to identify different word classes, you can put it on here and they can physically check. It also makes it so much easier if you want them to edit and improve text. So once they know that they've got an adjective, for argument's sake, of man-made, then you could say to them, right, well, we're going to want to edit it, we're going to improve that word choice. So it's an adjective, okay, it's got to describe, so therefore what can we change it to? And just the color code view for them to kind of see makes it so much easier for them to access it. So it's just a real cool tool that I found on OneNote, that the Immersive Reader allows you to turn on stuff like this, and you can see on top then you've got the nouns, you've got the verbs, okay? You can really dig into some quite cool SPAG stuff just by looking at that. And again, if I was to improve it, you can improve it on OneNote. You could screenshot this, upload it to Seesaw, upload it to Skitch or something like that, and then change it and edit it as an option. So yeah. The other thing, just to show you that it's got a few extra functionality stuff, which is quite cool. What you'll see here is if you hover over the words, and again, this is more for SEN learners, I just wanted to point it out, you can have these visual clues. So for each word, if you press here, it will read the word aloud. So if you've got children who struggle with spelling or anything like that, and actually they can't access the text just from reading it, they could use Immersive Reader, they could have it read to them. If there's words that they're really struggling with, they can have them read aloud. And again, if you dig into some of these, they've got these pictures. So for children with SEN needs, it's just so much nicer that they can actually see visually what those words mean, okay? I can't stress enough, if you know, even if you just use it for a handful of learners in your classroom, putting this on, just accessing your text through Immersive Reader, which you'll have access to in school, it's got loads of tools which are quite nice. Yeah, I've got a question.
It's actually a comment, but it's a useful one, and it's from Gillian, and she's just contributing to say that Immersive Reader, which you've just been speaking about, is also available in the online version of Word and in Teams. So useful for people to know that as well. Thank you. So
yeah, so you can turn it on either of those ways because it's basically a Microsoft add-on. That's brilliant. So if you just want to use it on Word, if you go on Word online again and have it as an add-on and turn it on there, yeah, saves you a job of going onto OneNote. Okay, cool, thank you. So OneNote, again, we'll come back to it at the end, is kind of that way for it's where you can have the collaboration, so you can have class OneNotes, they can share it that way. But if you want to do it via Words, and do it via Words. And if you've used it before, that's really nice to see because a lot of people don't know about it, and it's just a brilliant tool. The other thing I just want to point out really quickly that you have syllables as well. So if you want to turn syllables on, again, if you've got a SPAG activity and you're asking them to break down, say, some vocabulary, if they've got a list of 10 spelling words, you can upload those 10 spelling words to the OneNote, they log on, they try and break them down to syllables, and then they've got the answers, so they can turn it on if they want to. So it's just another little thing, again, not so much on the reading, but just an extra thing to show you, which is quite cool. So then one thing I want to go again, these are just like little wins. So like I said there, obviously if you're going to use OneNote or you're going to use Word, you're going to want to get the text on there in the first place. You can obviously on Word create a Word document and share it that way. So you could have it that they all access it through their shared drive, the P drive or anything like that, Pupil Drive. But another app just to kind of point out, there's an app called Seeing AI. This works quite nicely. There's one later on that's probably a little bit better, but this one works quite nice. If you haven't heard of it, download it and have a look. Basically, it allows you to scan a page of a book and it downloads the text for you. Okay, so if you've got this was just me doing it the other night with books that I had in my office. So if you scan a text and it can see all 4 corners, it will just take that text and it'll type it into a document for you. So then easily you haven't got to type up an extract. Okay, so it's just a really nice way you can do this now. And again, it has a read aloud feature, so if you have got children who are struggling, they could hover that text in front of them on an iPad and they could have it looked that way. So I'm just trying to think, teacher workload, you're not going to want to type up a load of text. Either do it that way. Or the other option, again, if you're using Apple devices, is if you type up an extract on or you do CNAR on your device. I'm sure you've heard of it. Apple AirDrop, you can share it really easily. So I did this earlier when I needed something off my phone onto my iPad. You can just share notes. So if you've got it, you need to turn it on in your settings, and then you just go to export. It gives you the option for everything to pop up. So I use it a lot in class where I have created a video or I've got a picture that I want them to work on, and I just send it, AirDrop it to everyone's iPads in my classroom. So it's just another way to share text rather than thinking, okay, great idea in theory, but what am I going to do because I've got to type up a whole extract. You haven't, give it a scan on here, ask the children to scan it, or scan it once onto yours, and then just share it all to the iPads that way. So yeah. Then another thing, again, if I was thinking about a bit of a SPAG kind of structure, so started my pre-read, worked out what they didn't know with regards to vocabulary, looked a little bit about some SPAG stuff there, making some Popplets and breaking down the language. Then we have looked at actually as a whole, looking at word classes, and then we could replace some of those word classes because once we've got them on OneNote and Immersive Reader, we can see. Checking and understanding, this is something that I'd used not that long ago and it actually worked really well. So again, it's just another quick tip, is a game called Heads Up. If you've played, you might have played this personally. So Heads Up is like a charades-based game where you take your phone or your iPad, put it on your head. It will give you a word to kind of describe. So it will normally give you animals, which is hilarious. So you see other people acting them out. What you can do on here is it costs 99p, but you can buy your own add-ons. You can make your own things, which is something I've done on classes, and the kids absolutely love it. So you go on there and you've got an option to build your own deck. Okay, and it costs 99p to buy it. So again, I'd probably just do it on your teacher iPad and use your teacher iPad as a small group activity. Again, or something for an intervention maybe if you want to do it that way. You build your own deck, you can add all your cards. Okay, so just a really nice interactive way of, okay, we've looked at word classes, now do we actually know what they mean? So you could have this list of 8 cards, which is what we've already looked at in our SPAG lessons and as part of our reading, then get the children to play it, put it on their head. Their peers have got to describe what an adjective is without saying adjective. Okay, it's just another quick win. And again, way for this as well, I've done it in science, done it in topic, have all your topic vocabulary. You can have as many cards as you want, put all your cards on, get them to kind of play it. It's just, again, building up that vocabulary, building up them explaining. So just a nice little app that I would do then to check their kind of understanding of what we focused on in SPAG. And then lastly, if I was using this as a unit, like a little mini unit, once we've done it, then I would go back to the text and I would do that editing and improving. Okay, so again, you've got a few different options if you want to do that. I would probably use Seesaw personally, so I would get them to take a picture of the text and look about how we can improve it, what choices we could make, improving the vocabulary, taking into consideration the word classes. Can they change some of those? Can they change some of the verbs, or can they add an adverb before the verb? Because if they know where the verb is now in the piece of text, they can change it that way. And then the 2 apps that I'd probably use Seesaw as my main one here. There's another one which I'm not going to look at too much, but it's called ThingLink. ThingLink is brilliant. Again, you have to have an account. It's free to sign up. There is an education license, which I haven't used personally. I would just have one license. And what it allows you to do is make it fully interactive. So I've used it before where we then tried to create our own immersive reader style text. So on here, you can click anywhere and add a plus button. And on this plus button, you can have these options. So we can add a picture. So again, with SEN learners, a bit like Immersive Reader gives you a picture of someone climbing. I've set them the task where they do that with their text as well. So find photos to match that word. I say, right, we're going to give this text to year 1. What's the words they wouldn't know how to use? We unpick, we're going to create our own. You can record audio, so they could record them saying that word in a sentence, and they can take videos and photos and all of that kind of stuff. So again, this isn't just used in every day. We used to use this in science a lot, explaining stuff, but it's just a nice interactive way. Again, look at that immersive reader as a SPAG activity, get them to create their own immersive readers on ThingLink. So you kind of got that as an option. So it's just kind of like a mini process looking at reading and SPAG from those options, from kind of pre-read to then actually going all the way through it and editing and improving. What I'm going to do now for the next 20 minutes or so after I've got a question is I'm going to go through a few different apps that you can hopefully use in different reading or different English lessons, which will almost just be quick takeaways that you can kind of go, yeah, okay, I can pull that back into my classroom. Yeah.
Yes, this is a question from Nicola, and it's regarding taking photos and editing them and annotating. You were talking about just a few moments ago. She asked, can you take a photo of a child's book and edit stroke annotate it?
Yes, so what you can do, so with either of these, maybe not so much with ThingLink, but probably more with Seesaw or Skitch, is when you go onto Seesaw, it gives you the option straight away to take a photo. So we used to use it massively for peer feedback, which I loved, and certainly in year 5. When the curriculum changed, there was a big push on editing. As long as you've got the camera, you hold the camera in front of the book, it asks you to keep it still, it will take a photo. So whatever photo you take, you can then annotate. So lots of people did it with science experiments and stuff like that. But certainly for pieces of work, yes, we used to do that, because what I used to hate as a teacher is where you had a success criteria. And if you were going to ask your children to do peer assessment, there's nothing worse than a child putting in so much effort and making their book look perfect, swapping it with someone else who can't do peer feedback very effectively, and then they kind of ruin their text. So what we used to say was, again, for editing improvement, you say take a photo on Seesaw or Skitch, and you then go and you make comments. And again, Seesaw, the only plus it does have is it gives you that microphone option. So again, rather than, you know, just a basic success criteria where it's like highlight your similes or highlight your adverbial phrases, they can then justify why, or they can then talk on and say, I would actually, although you've used an adverbial phrase here, you've missed your comma, and actually can you edit and change it? So yeah, really good question. You can take a photo of anything. It doesn't have to be a book, it can be peers work or anything like that, and you can have the same feedback tools on it. So yeah.
Thank you.
Right, so some quick wins. So again, just relating back to the app list that you're going to have, I'm just going to kind of go through all of these, and hopefully these will be more little ones that you can go, oh yeah, I could use that in my class this way. And again, some of these you may have heard of, because I'm not reinventing the wheel, I'm just kind of picking the best ones that I would use in English. So one that's obvious that you might have heard of is Book Creator. Book Creator, you can get Book Creator 1, which means it's free, but you can only create one book on it. It's a little bit of a pain. If you want the actual app, it's $4.99, which is quite expensive if you're going to use it in school. The way I used to get around that is I did Book Creator 1. I would schedule out a year group, so each year group had it for a term, and then I would just delete the app and reinstall the app, which then starts with a blank book, okay, because they made it a little bit tricky. But basically, Book Creator means you can add just about anything. So you can add photos, cameras, drawings, text, sound. A lot of schools use it for like topic-based learning. So if we're doing the Romans, we might say we're going to create a book on it, and it creates a fully interactive book, which obviously is great. Thinking about English a little bit more, the way in which I used to use it, which is just one that I like to point out, certainly Key Stage 1 or learners with SEN needs, is I used to use the sound bites quite a lot. Okay, so the sound bites allow you just to record audio. So what I would normally do is ask the children to get an image or a story starter. You can share this in different ways. I'll show you how to in a minute, or obviously you can save it from the internet, you can airdrop it, or I know what people are saying, it's like, okay, it's all right having a picture. I used to put, with Key Stage 1, I used to put a picture of the setting on the board and just ask the children to take a photo of the board. Okay, so don't get dug down too much in like, oh my God, how am I going to get a photo on? Even if it's just taking a photo of a picture on the board, you could do that. But what the sound bites allow you to do, and what I used to use, especially with my children who had the dyslexic children or children who really struggle to hold content in their head, was I used to put it on Book Creator and I used to say, right, just record your thoughts, because they'd come up with some amazing sentences, but then they couldn't put them down into their work. So this is just a nice way to go, right, I'm going to do a soundbite over here, and they've given me a soundbite about the trees, soundbite about the steps, a soundbite about the house. We can move these soundbites down to different areas. So I get them to record 5 or 6. You know, they could do it as part of an intervention group, but that's their recording. Take that back to the table, they press play, they can listen to their recordings, and then actually then focus on the transcriptional element of actually writing it down. So yeah, Book Creator is nice for just making topic books, but in English, definitely for vocab choices for those children who need it. That's very much what I would do, is have the picture and allow them to kind of then record their ideas, take that back into their learning. And with regards to sharing it, just one other thing you can do on Book Creator here, it does give you the option to export. So what I do a lot in my class is I will have a book, I'll make a book, I will put in screenshots from the book that we're using, or if I've used a video for argument's sake, I'll do that. So yeah, okay, I spend the time on my iPad to make a book with 5-10 pages. And then what you can do is you can press this export button. If you press this export button, you get this option to airdrop, and all the iPads in your classroom will come up if it's turned on. So what I used to do is, right, beginning of our unit, I'm going to airdrop you all the book. They'll get it, book pops up on their device, and they can record their sound bites. So it's just a nice, easy way for sharing it. Don't you, like I say, don't get bogged down in how am I going to get the devices on there, because I very much used to use a book with all of the pictures of the story, certainly in Key Stage 1, or different characters. If I was doing fairy tales, a page with each character on, and I would just share it really quickly to all their devices. It pops up going, would you like to open it? They press yes, it takes them straight into Book Creator. So it's just a nice way to share it. Another app that I'm going to talk about is one for Inference. Okay, so this is called Balloon Stickies Plus. It's nothing amazing, it's just quite a nice little tool. What this allows you to do is put on both speech bubbles and thought bubbles. So when we're looking at inference and how characters are thinking and what they might be feeling, it's a really simple way, like you can see here, to take a picture and they can type in the difference between what they might be saying and what they might be thinking. Okay, brilliant for PSHE activities as well. But like you can see here, take a picture of a book cover and have a think about it. Take a picture of characters from a book and you can use it. Again, they can add pictures from the internet, but they can just take a picture straight away and use it. And the one thing I really like with this, I'm just going to show you, this is just a screenshot, obviously not a picture on here, but for Key Stage 1, it gives them the option to dictate, which is really nice. So when they double tap, they'll have the option to put on a thought bubble or a speech bubble. It's a few different ones. It's like a comic, so they can have a play around with it. They then get the option to type, or they get the option to record. And when I used this in a school not that long ago, the record tool was actually pretty decent. So if you have got children with SEN needs who have got all the ideas, but they can't actually write it down and type it, because again, typing on the iPads is a whole new thing. It's not like handwriting. Certainly in Key Stage 1, they may struggle. That option of verbal recording is massive. So like with Book Creator, recording your speech, you can do it on Balloon Stickies Plus and it will transfer it straight into writing, which is quite a nice one to do. So just an option there. Same kind of thing carrying on with Inference. This app, I'm sure lots of you will have seen before. If you haven't, it's brilliant. It's called Chatterpix Kids. It is free. It allows you to take any image of anything and put a face on it, basically, so you can make it talk. So this is like their one, just so they're taken here. What you do is you can see here, you might see really faintly, there's a line. You draw a line and you press record, and that's it. So for the children, it's really, really simple. And what they can then do is explore characters' feelings or motives or actions and actually make an interactive video of that character talking about how they're feeling. Seen it used in history with things like that. If they're digging it like in monarchs and stuff, they would say how they felt. But it's a really simple free app. Again, you can download a photo from the internet. Great for Key Stage 2. Key Stage 1, what I used to do was print off a few photos of fairy tale characters. They would take a picture of it and then draw a line. Okay, they can draw a line on just about anything and make a video, and it is really, really, really good for them to do. They love it because they've got a talking thing, and actually it lets you again see what their understanding of what the characters are feeling. Worked with one school, they said to me one downside is you can only record 30 seconds. So obviously for Key Stage 2, I said that's not a downside. That's going to make upper Key Stage 2 thinking about their paragraphing, thinking about speaking and listening, thinking about when you're going to pause as a character, when would they actually pause for a breath and pause for thought, and that's when you can record more than one. So we used to get ours doing proper speeches using Chatterpix, a 3-minute speech, but they had to cut it down into 30-second segments. So it made them think about their language, think about their paragraphing, to then record that as a speech. So there's no end to what you can do with it. Again, just a quick win, maybe to use in English, but you can use it in other stuff as well. This next app I've only come across recently. I really like it, but it comes with a bit of a clause, I guess. It's not a finished piece in my opinion. It's an app called Note. What this does is it will save you time as a teacher, but just take it with a pinch of salt. And again, I'm thinking more Key Stage 2 here, is it basically creates comprehension-based questions for you from a text. So where you may be searching the internet or searching Twinkle for a text and then some comprehension questions, and you might be thinking, well, that's great, I'm doing non-chronological reports on the Stone Age, there is nothing on the Stone Age, so that doesn't really help me. This allows you to make your own. So what you can do is you can copy and paste an extract. You can get an extract from a photo. So if you're using a book, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute, you can take a photo, it puts the extract in, and you can even get extracts from the internet. And basically it will make questions from whatever text you input. So it's not perfect, which is why I say take it with a pinch of salt, because it's basically a computer algorithm trying to figure out questions. I would say to children when we teach computing, computers are essentially quite silly, quite stupid. It will just do what it's told. So it doesn't always work, but it basically creates literal questions from the information that's provided. So it's not like a be all and end all that I go, right, I'm being a bit lazy today, I'm not going to do reading comprehension, let's use this app. But it's a nice final tool, like a revision tool or something like that, to actually retain what they've read. And I'll just show you what it looks like a little bit, because it's probably one of those apps that I say download it after today and just see what you think, because actually it's not bad, but it's kind of hard to explain. So when you log on, you can have a text. This is one for argument's sake here. It could be a non-chronological one. It's just a non-chronological report on penguins. And then when you've got this text, so this is one of their ones that they actually have on as an example, you have the option here to turn it into a quiz. And when you press quiz, it will create you, I think you can choose a different amount of questions. It's normally like 10 questions or 15 questions on this text. So what the computer's doing is it's taking what the information's in front of it and it is writing questions. So you get questions like this, which are actually quite good for upper Key Stage 2 to do. It's about matching the definitions to the statements here. So they're trying to fill in the blanks. They tick a box and they highlight it. Kind of looks like this if they do that. Again, it's just taken from the text they've read. It is really literal. So you could have the text next to them while they're answering the questions. It just saves you coming up with some of those comprehension questions in some instances. You have other ones, you've got true and false questions. So endangered animals are at risk of being extinct. It's something again that they're going to be able to retrieve. It's just that retrieval expected reading. It's nothing, it's not really inference, it's not going to ask them about thoughts and feelings, but for retrieval based questions, it's not a bad tool, which saves you doing all the work. And then again here, you have some typing ones as well. So it's going to be looking for a specific answer and it will tell them if they're right or if they're wrong. So as a tool for a really quick comprehension activity, I would do it and I would massively look into it. If you kind of sat there thinking, right, there is nothing topic based that I can find anywhere, and I've been in this position where then I end up scouring the internet for longer than it would take me to make my own, have a look at this tool first, because if you've got a text, you can kind of use it. So with regards to the text, obviously here you've got some ones they have already. So they've got one on like Tutankhamun and some different ones. If you press the upload button, you have these different options. So you can scan your notes, which I'll show you in a minute. Obviously, if you've got a file, like if you've already got it on there, you can copy and paste. But it also has here, which is really quite nice, is web scraping. So if you put in a URL, so if you put in like the Romans page, it will copy the text from that page and turn it into a note for you. So again, if you've got something that you want them to read and extract from the internet and then actually come up with some comprehension questions, this could create your comprehension questions for you. So it's a really one that's worth looking into. Like I said, it's not perfect by any means because they are literal questions. It won't ask anything further than that retrieval element of guided reading, but it's not a bad skill to kind of have to save you some time. Again, if you scan it, this was just me having a play, what you'll find, it's taken the last 3 words off of this page, so you do have to kind of check the text, but otherwise that's pretty much word perfect for what I've got here. Okay, so it's a bit like that Seeing AI app. Take a picture, transfers it in. So if you do want them to just do a chapter from James and the Giant Peach or something that you've got in front of you, have a go, just scan those pages and then press quiz and see what it does. And like I say, please don't, I'm not saying it's going to be perfect every time because it is those literal based questions, but just as a time saver, it's quite a nice one to get them to look at. And even get year 6 to look at it. Can you answer all the questions? Which ones can't you answer and why? So you could throw that back to them that it's not perfect. It's just quite a nice comprehension tool. A few more apps, I'm just looking at time. Shadow Puppets Edu is a free app which is brilliant for retelling stories. So if you want them to check understanding of what have happened, again, and even predictions to some extent, what they can do on here, it's really nice for Key Stage 1. You can use it with anyone, or you know, it's intervention based, but what it allows them to do is take photos of different parts of the story, and it's really, really simple. So they can take a photo of each page, and then again, it allows them that verbal explanation of what's going on in that page. So they can verbally talk, and they have a draw tool as well, so they could highlight certain words and explain their word choices over the top. In Key Stage 1, what I used to do was print off all the pictures from a story. So if I had a picture book, for argument's sake, I'd have all the pictures on. I'd ask them to sequence them in the right order, and then I'd ask them to use Shadow Puppets Edu to take a picture of each picture and then verbally explain what was going on, just to check that they could actually piece together a story in the right order and retell what's being happened. Okay, so it's a really nice one. Again, it's free, creates a little video, they can play it back, upload it to Google Classroom, upload it to Seesaw, and you've got that kind of evidence collection there as well. Because again, with reading, it's a bit, lots of stuff gets lost. And then a couple more, just really quick ones. Do ink green screen. I always like to mention it, but it is expensive. You have to pay for this one. How we used to do it was we only used to pay for it on 2 or 3 devices. It basically allows you to, if you have a green screen, so the cloth on eBay costs about £10, okay, or you can get green screen paint or even a green backing paper on a board. We used to do that. This app then allows you to change background. So this is just an example of just a bit of an interactive book reviews that are made into a display, but you can use it with just about anything. So drama tool, it just adds that extra bit. Rather than getting them to act out, you can put them in the setting description, imagine they're the character, what are they going to say? So it's just a really nice one that I see in loads of schools. Loads of schools go, how do you do green screen? And if you're interested, look into doing, it's the best app. It is paid, but like I say, I normally just set 2 or 3 apps up that are recording and kind of use it that way. And then a few just other SPAG ones, I guess, just as like quick wins that are a little bit different. This is one that I've used, which I quite like. iFake text message. If you follow this link, it takes you to a page that looks like this. It gives you the option here. I see loads of people do it, and some people go, "How do you do it?" And it's just a free website. You can put in here different messages. So what you'll see here is this is just a SPAG activity where it's all wrong, and they've got to then rewrite it in the correct way. So as a teacher, you could create them differentiated work tasks for them to kind of do as a starter, like you can see there, and they've got to rewrite them as a SPAG focus. Again, digging into reading, Key Stage 2, you could get the characters to have a conversation. And again, rather than doing a script-based conversation, which the children might think that's a little bit boring, they can do it in this interactive way using this on iPads or tablets or laptops and create their own conversation between two characters. So it's just one of those quick wins. Again, thinking creatively in your classroom, you could use something different like this. Got two more. One more other SPAG. If you want to tie in, because I was thinking on computing at school with my computing head on now, this website will take you to code.it. If you haven't checked out code.it before, please do. It's a guy called Phil Bagg, and he's brilliant as a computer science teacher. This is what I recommend for unplugged computing, which we will look at in some other webinars, is just algorithms. So he has loads on here which are free to download, which are algorithms like this, just for different spelling rules. So I used to give them to my year sixes as a reinforcement lesson. If we had a different spelling rule for the week, I used to give them these algorithms, and I used to say to them, can I create some of their own algorithms? So they follow the steps, and then they work out where the words actually fit, they test it. Okay, it's just another little one that's quite nice if you want to link with computer science. And the last one, which I'm not going to get you to go on and look at just because of time, is Padlet. If you haven't heard of Padlet, have a look and sign up for it. It is another creative way, a bit like our Mentimeter right at the start, so almost going full circle, of gathering vocab. What Padlet is, free. It's basically a big post-it note board. That's the way I kind of say. I'm not going to get you to it now because the downside is you have to have a QR code. So if you haven't got phones on you, it's going to be a little bit of a pain. But when you've made a Padlet, there's a share option. And you can either copy a link like this, or you can get a QR code. So if you've got Google Classroom, you can copy the link to Google Classroom. If you've got iPad, you put the QR code on the board. And it allows you to make things like this. So I just made a really quick post-it note, and I used to do this at the start of my, not so much reading, but start my English lessons all the time, just for vocab gathering. So I'd put a picture on the board, and I'd go, right, I want you to put adjectives in this column, adverbs, conjunctions. You can have similes, metaphors. Give the children 5 minutes to populate. It's a bit like Mentimeter then, that if I put this on the board right now, it would populate all the answers. So children love it because they can see everyone else is coming up. It also then opens up so much dialogue that some people won't put adjectives in the adjective column, and then you can say, okay, which ones don't fit and why. But it's just a real interactive tool of collaborating online. So I'm not going to go into it now, just looking at time, but it's really worth having a look at. It's free. Downside is you can only have 2 boards unless you want to pay for it. So what I used to do is after I've done a board, I would screenshot it like I've done here, put it onto Google Classroom or stick it into books if I wanted to, or put it on the wall as our working wall, and then I could delete the board and have another one. I've never needed more than 2 boards active at a time. So it's really worth looking at. Again, the kids love it because it's constantly popping up like Mentimeter. It's just like Mentimeter is kind of your word cloud as a basis. If you want to dig a little bit deeper into different elements, you can have the categories on Padlet and looking at it that way. So just before I finish, because I know it's 5 o'clock and I don't want to keep people late, teachers' time is very precious. Just regards to blended learning, I've mentioned a few things and I'm not going to touch on it too much, but it's just things to think about. Obviously now we are in the realms of where we are expected to provide an opportunity for children to have a remote learning platform. Lots of schools I know have gone, yep, we'll get something set up and we'll shelf it. I would really avoid shelving something. Incorporate into your classrooms. I know a lot of schools are having blended learning policies. It's something I'm going to run some more stuff on in the future, just to actually say, okay, well, we're going to use Seesaw as a platform for argument's sake, but what are we doing to bring it back into the classroom to make sure children can integrate with this technology if we then get locked down? So again, the 3 that I've kind of mentioned today, which are really worth having to think of looking at, is you've got Seesaw. Brilliant platform where you can take those photos, where you can annotate on top of it. It is free. You can pay for the school version if you want. You can kind of muddle through with the free version if you don't want to. And the other 2 that you've got is you've got Microsoft Teams and you've got Google Classroom. Both of them at the moment have a £1,500 grant to get them set up. So if you're sat there going, oh my God, I don't have a platform, there's a £1,500 at the moment to get it set up. I believe that this will be there till about April next year. So you want to kind of look into it sooner rather than later. Teams, like we said, you've got that immersive reader tool on Teams. So let's just go through them really quickly. So obviously Seesaw, You've got the option to create activities, which means they're fully interactive. This, again, just thinking English is another phonics activity where I've just uploaded sound bites, and I want them then to put their read, write, ink buttons on underneath, so the children can draw on this and microphone and submit it. So this allows you the opportunity to create activities. So in lockdown, you're setting different works. White Rose, you can just upload as a PDF and the children can draw on it and send it back. Microsoft, obviously you've got Teams, which adds as a chat function if you want to have that, or turn that off. In Teams, you can have shared files, so for sharing work that way. And again, on OneNote, you can have shared files, so you can have class notebooks, which means you can have group work, my notebooks, and shared with me, so you can have intervention groups kind of shared on there. Obviously, then Teams and Word and everything is included. And then the last one, again, just one to think about, is Google Classroom. We do training on this. I really like Google Classroom. Probably prefer it to Teams, don't know if I should say that, but I do. You can still do the same kind of stuff, bring it back into Classrooms. So in Classrooms, you can either set an assignment, which here gives you the option what you do with it. So if this was an English task or a reading task, I might give them a Popplet extract. I can then ask children to edit a file, so we could collaboratively edit it together, like our immersive reader thing if we've done that. Or questions, a bit like gathering vocab on Mentimeter, I could ask them to give me an adjective, and you've got you've got all of the collaboration coming back in. So again, if you are using stuff, it's about thinking, and I don't envy you guys at the moment with what you've kind of got to do, but if you've got these platforms, use them. Like if you are going to think, oh, Mentimeter is quite cool, and you already use Google Classroom, post it on Google Classroom and try and get them interacting in this platform, because unfortunately it is a little bit crazy that you've got to have stuff like this set up. So that's just a quick overview of the 3 ones that I'd recommend, but obviously I didn't want to touch it too much because this is more about English. It's just something there, but if you've got any questions, you can obviously ask us or get in touch. So yeah, that's pretty much what I've got to say. I know, and I do apologise, it's kind of been like an hour or 50 minutes of me just throwing loads of ideas at you. That's kind of the point of this session, to hopefully make you go and think, and you might hopefully walk away going, well, yeah, there's one app that actually I might try that in English, or that would be quite good. So hopefully you found that useful. The handouts on here, please do go and download them. You've got the PowerPoint presentation. There's my details if you want to bug me on Twitter or ask me any questions. And obviously anything, if you take it and use it in your work from now, then use that CAS Inspire hashtag and tweet so we can actually see it. It'd be great to see anything that you do in practice. The app list is there. Send it to your technicians. I'm sure they'll love you. Go and can you download some of these apps onto our iPads or things like that. And anything else, you know, please do get in touch with us. But hopefully that's been useful. Hopefully it's something you can take back into the classroom to make teachers' lives a little bit easier. So yeah.
Thank you. I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who's joined us this afternoon, and a special thanks to Rachel Vidler for presenting. It's going to be very difficult for me to choose my personal highlights from that because there were so many, too many to mention, but I did particularly like the I fake text message for the SPAG sessions, and I can imagine how well that would work with children. So I think I would choose that. And please do share your highlights from this session via social media and on the CAS website. At the end of this webinar, a short survey will appear on your screen, and we'd be really grateful if you would take a minute to complete the survey. We hope to see you at the next session in the CAS Inspire series, which is on Thursday, the 8th of October. And it is on top tips for combining computing and art. Please do continue to spread the word about CAS Inspire. Thank you so much for joining, and we hope to see you next time. Goodbye.